Hey all you average gamers, welcome back to another Most Average review, an in-depth look at games from just another average gamer. I'll start off by saying I don't think this game got the recognition it deserved. Greedfall is fantastic, but before I continue, if you like this content, please don't forget to hit that like button. If you want to see future content like this, think about subscribing. You know, it costs you nothing but supports the channel immensely, and I appreciate it in ways that I can't quite express yet, but believe me, when I get the opportunity, I will. Greedfall is a game that I fell in love with, and it became my new obsession overnight. The game definitely has its ups and downs, but the structure and the storytelling got me sucked in right away. I do believe the game is a bit long and dragged out, but overall I enjoyed the story. Greedfall is best described by comparing it to Dragon Age Origins in structure, and similar to storytelling in that of Elder Scrolls Morrowind. The game dives heavy into RPG mechanics and dialogue, specifically dialogue choices. You play as Sir de Sardet, the legate of the congregation, which is sort of like an ambassador who is donned with the task of building relations with the other factions on Tier 4D, the island the game is set on, and the natives as well, in search of a cure for a plague-like sickness called the Malachor. The game also just recently got a current-gen upgrade and a DLC expansion with the Vespe Conspiracy. I played the game on PS5 in performance 60 FPS mode, which targets around 1440p. The game also offers quality mode, which offers a true 4K experience but is locked to 30 FPS. The game is developed by Spiders and produced by Focus Interactive. If you have played a Spiders game before, then you may know what you're in for with Greedfall. Some really cool and ambitious ideas, but still not quite polished enough to be a large AAA RPG game. That being said, this game is definitely not an indie game either. I feel like we need more games like this though, kind of like a middle ground game. A quick side note for those that are playing the last gen version, the game does have its hitches and can dip in frame rate, but it has begun to run much better after the latest update. I have a few sections of the game I want to talk about though. I will start with the graphics and performance mode first, as it will most likely be the shortest, then move on to the gameplay and mechanics. I'll then move on to the story and the DLC, no worries, I won't have any or at least no big spoilers here. We will discuss the characters as well and world building, and I will give you my final thoughts on whether or not I would recommend this game. Graphics are nothing to write home about, but the game definitely looks good, and the team at Spiders have reached far beyond anything they have done before. And it has some awe-inspiring moments from the background scenery and the world building. There are, however, moments where things just look too square, or too, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it looks too video gamey, if that makes sense, the way things are laid out. Not saying it looks bad, just not the most alive world I've ever seen. The open world environment on the island can truly be a spectacle though. It's not the best looking game out there, but some of the set pieces look absolutely amazing, and you can tell the devs really put their heart behind it. And the lighting engine in the game is definitely a high point of the game. It truly makes the world look amazing. The cities, on the other hand, are cool and vary in aesthetics, but the interiors are definitely an area where the developers cut corners and did a little copy and paste with just some recolors on it. I get the developers need to cut budget somewhere, and in a game like this, I feel it's not a bad area to do so. As far as performance goes, the game has its hitches, especially on previous gen and at launch. The PC port had its issues as well and at launch, but the bugs seem to have been worked out. The biggest issues I would say are the camera fighting you and the lip sync. My god, is the lip sync bad. One of the worst I've ever seen in a modern game. And if that takes you out of it, I do get it.
Tell me about Siora.
You are right there, and you let him talk about you like this? A seer? That's a strange friend you have there. Perhaps I wanted to hear how you'd reply. Perhaps, but I don't like this. Did you want anything else?
Thanks. Goodbye, Assault.
And if that's a deal breaker for you, I understand, but I eventually got past it and I really dove into the story. With that being said, I can say that the voice acting is phenomenal. The delivery from the voice actors is amazing, and the same voice acting company also voiced the Witcher 3 game, so if you have a keen ear, you may hear some familiar voices.
The beast is awoken!
Those conniving, pista-stilling, bridge-building liars. The creature was supposed to be out for days. They'll pay for this. What the hell manner of cargo are you transporting?
Help! We need routes! We must contain it! Help! Come now, let's lend them a hand.
Watch out! Take a step back, sir! Cut! Captain! Keep my cousin safe!
The moment-to-moment gameplay can be fun, but can also be kind of bland. I beat the game on the most difficult setting, and that's not a flex, it's just the way I recommend playing it, otherwise the combat can be a breeze. I did find the combat fun, even though it was slightly janky. There's a lot of variety on how you can attack your foes though. There are creatures and enemy NPCs from different factions and bandit groups. Different enemies will have different amounts of armor above their health bar that need to be depleted before you can do actual damage to your enemies. Magic attacks can ignore armor and do direct damage, which makes it a viable build for the game. The range attacks are just a lock-on single button press, kind of like old school Assassin's Creed games. I don't recommend the range build as it seems to be the most boring in my opinion, but it does work and it is pretty strong, but magic and melee are fun to me. The exploration and moving around the game is fine, but I do wish the game included a mini-map instead of compasses with objective markers on it, as the map design is a corridor style similar to Dragon Age games, and it can be very easy to get lost or run into dead ends unless you pull up your map and check it every 2 minutes. The RPG mechanics are truly top notch, and I really wish the game had just a little more polish to really show off these mechanics. You have skills, attributes, and talents. The skills are the moment-to-moment things you can do in combat. The attributes are your passive skills like strength, agility, willpower, which determines the type of level of equipment you can use, and the talents are what help you in exploration and dialogue options like charisma, vigor, and science. There's also an extremely in-depth armor system which you can upgrade with 3 different slots on the chest piece and 1 in some hand pieces. The companion system is a great addition that does feel a little underdone. You can't control your companions in combat, but you can upgrade their armor and weapons to make them more viable, and they seem to do a pretty well at taking care of themselves in combat. Some are definitely better than others, but overall, they do pretty well.
All that remains of it.
I told you. You were not the first Renags went by here.
Many died. What happened to them?
I warned them, I remember. They did not listen very well. Too bad. Their weapons were strange and powerful, but not enough so. The Marsh is more powerful still.
That doesn't seem to bother you all that much.
Tiafradi gives, Tiafradi takes back. But you're still here. What do you want again?
I found this note. It speaks of a ritual, but it is incomplete. Do you know anything else about it?
A ritual? Yes, there is a ritual for the impatient. For me, it serves no purpose. I am here. I wait.
But for me, it would be useful. Can you help me?
There must have her reasons. The folly of youth. Do you see those drums over there? They awaken the earth, as long as you play them correctly.
They will awaken the earth.
Oh, and that's not all. Once the earth is awakened, the stone will appear that must be quenched.
Quench a stone.
As I touched on earlier, the voice acting is top notch, just unfortunate that the lip sync is off at times. Another thing that doesn't always line up or match is the subtitles. You will notice a few times where the words written either don't match what is said or the words themselves are misspelled. The game isn't AAA, so I can forgive these things, but I do hope they touch them up for the next game they work on. The character and NPCs in this game are hit or miss. I enjoyed my companions for the most part outside of Kurt. I found him a little bland and one-dimensional. Petrus quite surprised me. He's a little scoundrel. I recommend doing all of his side quests. Speaking of quests, the game has over 80 quests to be completed before the addition of the Vespe DLC. Not all of them are great. which can be said with any game, but for the most part I enjoyed the story and wanted to get to know these characters more, especially my companions. The game has a similar system to that of Mass Effect when it comes to companions. You start out in a suspicious state and work up to a friendly, then eventually loving. You can romance your companions and romance multiple of them if you feel like it. I couldn't find any moments that you could befriend or have a hookup with an NPC through the world design and aesthetics are pretty good, like I touched on earlier, and can really have moments where you just sit there and stare. A screenshot worthy kind of game design. There's a lot of copy and paste, but each area of Tier 4D has variations, from swamps to golden woodlands to deep green evergreen forest and 3 distinct city regions. Each region of the island has about 3 or 4 different zones you can explore. I say explore loosely, as like I said, the game map has a corridor design, and that being said, there are some little hidden areas and side quests to discover.
Renounce your gods! Answer me.
Why are you doing this?
Behold your so-called gods. You are demons. They burn. They are nothing. You shed tears for this creature while your heart should be full of joy, welcoming the light. Forget your pagan foul teachings. Embrace the true faith. You are mad. Renounce your gods!
I thoroughly enjoyed the story. You play as De Sardet, and you are the legate, which is basically an ambassador for your faction. Sardet is a noble from the Merchant Congregation, which is a neutral faction that deals mainly in trade and, well, merchants. The other factions are Thélème and the Bridge Alliance, the Coin Guard, the Knots, and finally the Natives, which are broken up into different tribes. Thélème are a religious-focused faction. The Bridge Alliance are science or alchemy-focused faction, which are at war with Thélème faction, for obvious reasons. The Knots are the nautical faction and are also neutral like the Congregation and transport the other nations across the waters of the game world. The Coin Guard are basically hired guards for the other factions and seem to work with everyone except the Knots as they protect themselves. The Natives are the people that lived on Tier 4D before our arrival. In the beginning, you learn that there is a plague-like sickness affecting people of the mainland's blood called the Malachor. This is the reason to travel to Tier 4D in hopes of a cure for the sickness. The game is heavily focused on politics and relations in the game, and you spend a great deal of the game in dialogue. That being said, the game plays similar to Witcher 3 in the way that some quests and some dialogue options only become available after certain other quests or are dependent on the decisions made in previous quests. The story, as always, is subjective, but I quite enjoyed it and at times couldn't put the controller down as I wanted to know what happened next. There are some twists and turns and betrayals and backstabs that make the story quite intriguing. I personally enjoyed it and I hope you enjoyed it as well, because like I said, I don't think this game quite gets the recognition it deserves, especially after the latest updates and the next gen and all of that. So after hearing all of this, you can probably tell that I would recommend this game, especially on current gen, and with the addition of the DLC, it's a good game to kill a lot of time. It took me about 60 hours to complete DLC and everything else in the game. The DLC is more of the same and doesn't vary much from the bones of the base game, but there are a few new enemy types that offer a fairly difficult combat experience. If you aren't into games that are spent mainly in dialogue, then this game most likely isn't for you. But I enjoyed myself and I hope you give this game a try. I truly feel this game isn't given the recognition it deserves, especially for being developed by such a small team. I believe there were only 14 guys that worked on this. As always, my friends, this has been another Most Average review, an in-depth look into games from another average gamer. This review was brought to you by Glitch Energy and myself. Stay safe, stay healthy, and go make some average plays, my friends. I'll catch you on the next one.